Now, Ravi, President Mukherjee said he wants more cooperation with China, and there are several sectors to pick from. Where do you see the biggest potential for closer ties?
Well, I think we've seen Chinese companies already identifying some opportunities. Some of them happen to be related to the internet sector. But I think India needs more help in the infrastructure sectors. And the real thing at the skill level in manufacturing, if Chinese companies and some of the other companies currently operating in China can be attracted to India to carry out some of that lower level assembly work, that is what will create massive numbers of jobs. And that is what India really needs, is lots of jobs for low-skilled workers.
And as you mentioned manufacturing, we see that both countries have these strategies to really upgrade their manufacturing sectors. You have Made in India versus Made in China 2025. How do you think these stack up against each other?
I think make in China is history. I think in China, the real goal now is to create in China. So China is very much focused on trying to move up the value curve and try to promote innovation and indigenous technology. India is much farther behind in that evolution. India is really trying to get companies just to make products within the Indian market. And I think the challenge there is not just to make in India to sell in India, but to make in India to sell for the whole world. And that is where India is still struggling to compete. It does not have the infrastructure that China has.
And speaking of being able to access more of the global market, we also see that there's the China-Pakistan economic corridor that's being developed as part of the new Silk Road. And then you have India teaming up with Iran for the Chahabad port to get more access to Europe. How do you think that's going to affect trade in the region?
Well, I think these are competing in some ways, looking for different ways to establish relationships in the region so that no country gets a very permanent upper hand in the region. But I think these are really red herrings. These are not the most important issues facing the Indian economy. The most important issue is how do you create jobs? How do you improve the infrastructure? So all kinds of companies want to come and operate in the Indian market. And how can you help Indian companies who are actually pretty good as companies go? How can you give them a more competitive platform from which to compete globally?
And in terms of that competition, how would you actually describe the business environment right now in India?
It's still a very tough place to do business. Prime Minister Modi has been promising to make India a more attractive place to do business. And he's done a lot of things that can be done by the central government. But India is a large country, and as you know, like China, a lot of the action is at the level of the provinces. And unless the provinces reform their own policies and improve their infrastructure and improve their governance, India will still not be a very attractive place from which to make for the rest of the world.
Now, in terms of attraction, we're also seeing that India did overtake China, becoming the most attractive destination for FDI. How do you think China is viewing that shift?
I think that is a little bit of, you have to take that information with a bit of a pinch of salt. What really these studies and surveys are showing us is that companies are becoming more bullish about India and relatively less bullish about China. But they're not actually investing more in India than they're investing in China. So I think from China's perspective, this is not something to be terribly concerned about. In fact, I get the feeling that today, as eager as it once used to be to attract foreign direct investment. I think China really now wants to attract technology. If it comes through foreign direct investment, that's fine. But if there are other ways to get the technology, that's fine too. So I think the focus on how much are we getting in terms of foreign direct investment and are we number one or not is not as important as it used to be.
And speaking of technology, we're also seeing more Chinese internet companies pouring money into Indian startups. What do you think is driving that?
Well, I think there are a couple of factors. I think one of the important factors is that some of the Chinese companies are actually farther along in the evolution in those internet-based industries. If you take e-commerce, or you take the gaming industry, China is really quite sophisticated, a very large market with a very large user base of smartphones and are willing to buy products online. India is farther behind. So I think Chinese companies may think that they can offer some help to Indian companies as they try to make that journey. The other thing, of course, is that the promise in India is that the digital industries are going to take off in the next decade. Has created some optimism and I could say some enthusiasm. And maybe the Chinese companies think that if they get in there sooner rather than later, they might actually be able to make a lot of money.
Well, it sounds like lots of opportunities ahead there. We'll have to leave it there. Ravi Ramamurti from Northeastern University.
If you like what you just saw, follow us on social media and visit our website, cctv-america.com.